Hello, everybody, and welcome to another lesson. I'm not going to post this as lesson 5 or 6 or something like that. I had someone bring to my attention that they only had the use of a cell phone, and on their little tiny cell phone screen, they were not able to see anything. So what I've done is I'm going to remake this video specifically for them, but for everyone that couldn't see on their little cell phone screens, I've made everything big enough for you to see, and I'm going to go over. Now, you can actually go back and listen to the videos. Um, uh, Pretty much everything can be gained by just listening, except when we get to the last example. You just have to watch it. You literally have to watch me go in and move the words around on the screen, and hopefully it will open up your eyes. Now, also, one other thing brought to my attention is someone said they made a comment that they can't wait till I get past the teaching part so that I can get to the preaching part. And I understand what they mean, but they're misunderstanding a lot. Okay, let me kind of describe a little bit of a difference between teaching and preaching. Teaching assumes that you don't know something. For example, if I started teaching you Hebrew, I'm assuming that you don't know any of this Hebrew stuff on the screen, and I have to start teaching you the Hebrew. Okay. Now, what's preaching? Well, preaching would be if I found someone else teaching Hebrew, uh, and they were teaching it wrong, then I would need to go back and correct it. And and when I'm speaking to that person, me uh, telling them about the correction would be similar to preaching. So I understand my viewer's concern, but the thing is what I want to preach on, you haven't been taught yet. No one has been taught. I know that because I don't like to say I invented something or I discovered or found something. I've just looked all over the world the best to my ability, and I just can't find anyone else who teaches what I'm wanting to teach and preach on. So I need to teach first. Now, obviously, at the same time, it is it is preaching. Why is it preaching and teaching at the same time? Because if we're talking about the Bible and you assume that you know the Bible, then I'm going to be preaching to you. If you don't know the Bible, then I'm going to be teaching you. So my example is for my viewers, I want to make this clear. If I go open up um, my little Bible online and I go to the first verse in the Bible, I want to make this where everybody can see this now. If you read the first verse in the Bible, it doesn't really matter what Bible you pick. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you even literally, you can use the Islamic Quran. You can use a Jewish Bible. You can use a Christian Bible. It literally doesn't matter. They'll all say the same thing, that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. That's what they all say. Then, no matter what religion, no matter what denomination, you just simply ask a question. Can you explain that? Can you explain the first two verses in the Bible. And you find there is no one that can explain the first two verses in the Bible. It's been an argument in religious debates since the beginning. Well, I want to try and teach you. If you don't know what the Bible says, if you don't know the Hebrew, there's a lot of things you don't know that I want to teach you. Okay. Now, for those people like Dr. Michael Brown and Nehemiah Gordon, who are our world's elites, and they know Hebrew better than I do, they probably know English better than I do. They probably know this Bible better than I do. But when I see a mistake, well, that's when the preaching comes in. Now, whether I can teach them, that's a different story. I may not be teaching them anything. I may be preaching to them. Okay. But for you, if you don't understand what I'm saying, it's not preaching, it'll be teaching. So when someone says, I can't wait for you to get done with the teaching and get to the preaching, well, the fact that they can't see the preaching means they need the teaching. And when you don't need the teaching anymore, you will see the preaching because they're both happening at the same exact time. So if I ask you to look on the screen and I highlight this word right here on the screen, hopefully you can see this word now. And sometimes maybe I can blow it up like this where you can really see that word highlighted on the screen. But I want to try at 300 and leave it at 300 because I can see two lines of text. And I want you to look at this word right here. And I want you to see that in English, it is written the heavens. And in Hebrew, it is written as Hashamayim or Hasamayim. Now, if you can see that, all I've asked up until this point is can we agree on what we see with our eyeballs? So obviously this person was like, no, I can't see. It's too tiny. Okay, fair enough. I need to blow it up. And I may need to blow it up again. We're going to try this video to see if this corrects things. If it does, then these are the numbers that we're going to use on our future videos. So I will need feedback if this is too large or too small, so on and so forth. So this says, in the beginning created God the heavens and the earth. And we only are concentrating, our lesson is on this word right here called heaven. Now, whether I'm teaching or preaching depends on what you know about this word. Now, obviously to me, when you tell me this word is heaven, well, I need to teach you something because this don't say heaven. Now, for those who know what this word says, they know, in other words, if you're a Hebrew speaker, you should know what this Hebrew word is. Dr. Michael Brown, Nehemiah Gordon, they should know what this word is. And when they say that the word is heaven, then it's not teaching anymore, it's preaching. Because that is a lie. It does not say heaven right here, and I'm going to prove it. So, what I want to do before I show you in this Bible, which it is King James Version. Well, I mean, they have King James Version on here, but I'm using an interlinear version. I want the interlinear so you can see the Hebrew and the English, so you can see where the English is getting their information from. And the English and the Greek and every language, they get it from Hebrew. Hebrew is the original language. Hebrew is our source. That's where we get it from. So before I actually go into the Bible and show you this is not the word heaven, before I do that, I've got this, this little teaching tool. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is to give some people a little faith. Someone might say, this guy, he doesn't know Hebrew. He's already admitted he hasn't been trained in Hebrew. He doesn't speak Hebrew. This guy don't know nothing about Hebrew. Okay, fair enough. And I'm showing you how I went into the Bible and learned what we would call Hebrew all by myself. Okay. And I'm showing you that you can do it too. And I'm putting the information out there because if you happen to have a Hebrew friend, well, he can verify. He can verify that what I'm telling you is the truth. Now, there are going to be some things that people just are not going to agree on. For example, the sound of this letter right here, whether it is a V or a W. There's going to be a person that says, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. It's not a V, it's a W. Okay. There's going to be an argument on this letter down here, shin and sin, and say, I just found a mistake while I'm looking at right here. I'm going to correct it on the screen. That's shin, sin. There's always going to be mistakes. There's always going to be things I miss. Always. But I'll know what kind of person you are. If you come to me saying, you don't know what you're talking about. This is a W, not a V. I already know exactly what kind of person you are, and you need to be preached to. If you go down here and start talking about the shin sin, I know exactly what kind of person you are, and you need to be preached to. You don't need to be taught. You need to be preached to. There is a difference. But for those that are innocent and say, well, I really don't know. Well, you need to be taught, okay? And you need to be taught in a way where people can't deceive you ever again. And it's really not very many things you need to learn. You simply need to learn Ivrit. Ivrit is the Hebrew language. And here are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Now, you learned English. If you're listening, you've learned English. Well, guess what? English has 26 letters. Hebrew only has 22. And guess what? They all equal English letters. For example, I put this on the screen. You can take a picture on your phone while you're watching, take a screenshot, and there you have it. You can go look at it anytime you want. Here's all of the Hebrew letters, and here's all the letters, how you pronounce them in Hebrew. So this is an aleph. Here it is written in English so that you can say it, aleph. It tells you that it's an A or a vowel. Here we go to this next character number 2. It's a bet. It can be a bet or a vet. It can have a B or a V sound. This is one of the letters that people argue about and say, well, it's a W sound. That's another argument, another lesson. I am not teaching it's a W. Okay. So for those that come back and argue it's a W, well, it's going to become a preaching session because I'm teaching bet vet. And bet vet is actually, it's more common. It's the standard. It's not a W. It's not and same exact thing happens when we get to this letter right here, Vav, whether this is a V sound or a W. And again, I'm not teaching a W sound. I'm teaching a V sound. So if you want to challenge me on this, it's not going to be a teaching session. It's going to be a preaching session, obviously. So, but my viewers, I'm teaching my viewers, and I'm teaching based on what I know and what I can teach. And there, when we get to the vet, and when we get to the vav, and when we get to the shin, it'll make perfect sense why I use what I use. There are specific reasons. So here it is, plain Jane, right here for the whole world. This is what I use. So if you want to find a problem in what I use, well, right here it is. Go ahead, find a problem. Now, we do not need to know any of this, viewers, whoever you are. You don't need to know this. But just in case you don't believe me, when I say that this letter, for example, this letter right here is an H, if you don't believe me, you can go back and look at this cheat sheet. I call it cheat sheet. Look at it, and you'll see, oh, it is a hey, it is a H. And if you don't trust what I'm teaching you, then go Google it, go on the internet. You'll find out, indeed, it's an H. Okay? But I'm only doing this to show you, well, I know what I'm talking about. This is, but it's irrelevant. We don't need any of this. But there it is. Now, there's always going to be somebody who talks about Hebrew grammar, Hebrew syntax, the way Hebrew works. For example, if you read this, I have put the Hebrew words on top, and every time I have a Hebrew word, I'm going to write the Hebrew word in English below it so that you know what those words are. So that's the pattern. If you look down here, he's here Hebrew words, and here's English words below to match the words above. Okay. Now, the problem is in Hebrew, you read from right to left. In English, left to right. So I do have to make a few adjustments. But it's still irrelevant. We don't need any of this. But just for those viewers, just for those few people who go, I wonder if this guy really knows what he's talking about. Well, we can go and learn this. And I don't even know how to pronounce it, but the Otiyot Hashimush are the 11 service or formative letters in the Hebrew, and listen carefully, that attach to the front of words. They function just like prefixes do. Well, this is not Hebrew, folks. This is English. I know what a prefix is. Now, I'm not learning Hebrew, but I understand a prefix. It simply goes in front of a word. Well, why is this so important? It's so important because in English, these three letters, P, R, E, it's like they make a prefix, PRE, like in prefix. Or I know this is preposition, but if you said preposition, you can understand that pre is just, it's a pattern. It's a pattern of taking certain letters and putting them in front of words. They become prefixes. Hebrew is different. Hebrew has 11 of the 22 letters that can be used like a prefix. So I don't need three letters like PRE. I can just put one single letter in front of a word. For example, the letter B. When you put the letter B in front of a word, it usually means in. So if you look at the next letter is a hey. Usually when you see the letter hey, which is an H in English, I can add the letter H to any word, and the H just means the. The V, the Vav, just means and. And we can, but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. I'm not trying to teach you Hebrew. But for those that want to learn, well, here you go. Here it is. Take a picture with your phone and screenshot this. And you can go back and look anytime you want. These are the letters that we can use to put in front of words and function like prefixes. Now, I didn't put what they are, like fob is and hey is the, and bet is in. I just wanted you to, because when I get to teaching, we're gonna go over these letters. Well, here they are. So you can go back and see which 11 letters function as prefixes. And we will make another cheat sheet later on, or maybe I'll go back and edit this one and put the meanings in here for you. Next, there is one last thing that we need to talk about, and that is when certain letters, and I've got a list of them here, they're only 5. When these 5 letters end a word, okay, when they end a word, they change forms right before your eyes. This letter, as I've put on here, changes to this letter. And it's really hard to highlight these, but this letter looks like a backwards C, changes to this letter, which looks like a backwards R. Okay. Now, it doesn't matter because in English, it's just a K. Now, this M down here, you see this M, and this one is very important because this one this is our first lesson on the word heaven. We're going to definitely go over this one, but you can see this mem changes to a final mem, but it's irrelevant. They're both an M in English. And you see, so take a picture. Take a picture and you have it. You can go back, look anytime you want. All right, let's move on. Now, I want to prep you for what I'm about to teach you because there's some people who say, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Some say, I don't know Hebrew. You don't need to know Hebrew. You don't even need to know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm going to go piece by piece, okay? And I'm going to put it all together for you. All I am really talking about is I'm preparing you. I'm preparing you for the first lesson. And obviously I have to admit I failed because I had somebody call me and tell me I couldn't do the first lesson. I can't even see it. Okay, fair enough. I'm correcting it on my end. I need you to do your part on your end. So viewers, if you can't see, obviously you need to tell me. It's too small, you can't see. And for that viewer, I'm not going to call out their name until they tell me it's okay to use their name. But you need to know you are a blessing. And in return, I'm going to bless you with so much knowledge and information. Girl, you are on a one-way trip straight to heaven. Just hang in there. I'm going to get there. You're going to hear all the preaching that you've ever wanted to hear in your life. But we have to learn first. Now, if you look on the screen, I have this letter on here, which if we go back up to the Hebrew, you'll see that it is an M. Now, I don't want to go back and forth. I want you to trust me that this is an M. But for those who don't trust me, go back and look at the alphabet and you'll see. Indeed, it's an M. Now, in ancient times, that M, well, first of all, that M is one of those letters that change when it's at the end of the word. And I wrote the same letter M over here, how it looks when it changes at the end of a word. Now, right beside it, I did the best I could with letters to draw this, what it looked like when Moses wrote it. And what it looked like was a wave of water. It's just water going up, down, up, down, up, down, and it represents waves. Now, if I ask you, what does a picture of water represent? Obviously, we should be able to agree it represents water. That's why I wrote the word water down. Anytime you see this letter, it should tell you water. Now, when you see the picture, there's one thing the picture adds, and it's an understanding. Now, the understanding that I gain from seeing this wave is I'm envisioning being on an island out in the middle of the ocean, and the only thing I can hear, the only thing I can see is just waves. Maybe I shouldn't have said island. I'm floating. I'm floating in the middle of the ocean. All I can see is waves. I don't see any fish, no ships, no birds. The wind's not blowing. The sun is hidden. all I can concentrate on is waves. And what am I going to hear and see? Wave after wave after wave after wave. You know what that tells me? That reminds me of repetition, of repeating. So, since this gives me the picture of water, then I think water after water after water after water. Now, if that doesn't make sense to you, there's nothing else I can teach you. When I see a picture of water, it reminds me of water. When I see a wave or wave after wave after wave, now if you're a surfer, you might say, oh man, that reminds me of surfing. Okay, fair enough. But is it going to remind everybody in the world of surfing? Probably not. What's it definitely going to remind everyone of? Wave after wave after wave. Would the surfer understand that? Sure would. Now, he may be able to get more understanding out of this wave, but at least we can all agree wave after wave after wave. So if I was trying to communicate something to you, it's got something to do with wave after wave after wave. Can we see? It might have something to do with repeating, repetition. So I'm showing you in this example how to build words in the Bible. So if you look at this word water, right here it is. This is a word. It is water. It's just one letter. It's a picture of water. In English, we just call it water. Now, if I take that letter and I add another letter to it, now I have two letters. Remember, at the end of a word, this letter changes to this letter. It's still just an M. It's still a picture of water, and it's still wave after wave after wave. But we add something to it. We add this yud. And I did the best I could to draw a yud for you. This is a arm bent at the elbow with a forearm and a hand with an open palm. Now, this is what I was trying to explain. This is what I would call a stick figure form. In reality, it looks nothing like a hand, looks nothing like an arm, but we can understand this is a robot stick figure, the most basic caveman drawing of an arm that I could do on a computer keyboard. Now, we already know what the picture of water represents water, wave after wave after wave. Well, what does the arm represent? Well, it represents work. So when we put the two together, we have, and I've wrote right under the Hebrew, that's my pattern. We do Hebrew and then into English. So right here I have a Hebrew line and I've translated it into English for you. So when you see these two letters together, this is a yud and a mem. It's a picture of a arm and water. And what does it mean? Well, look, it means arm water or hand water. What is this arm and hand doing to the water? It's working it. So you could literally picture an arm and a hand doing something with water. Let's say slapping the water. So it's slapping the water, slapping the water, slapping the water. It's, what would you call that? What is the arm's function? What's it doing? We simply call it work. So if I asked you, well, go out there and work the water. How would you work the water? You just go out there and start splashing it, moving it around. That's it. Just take your hand and start swirling it around. That's good enough. How many times do you got to swirl it around? Well, you got to do enough for it to be work. So that means you got to do it over and over and over. That means you get out there and take your hand and run your hand through the water over and over and over again. And you've literally simulated the two pictures of work and water, and there you go. What does it represent when we apply it to words? It simply means to repeat the word. It just means it is plural, and in English we add an S. So for example, if I had $1, well, let's say one orange. If I had one orange versus I have orange after orange after orange. What's the difference between orange and orange after orange after orange? Well, I got 3 oranges versus 1. I call 1 an orange, and I call 3 oranges. We just add an S in English. So what I've done is I've taken the Hebrew and I've made it simple. When you see this combination at the end of a word, it just means S. And I'm going to give you a few examples to prove it. So if we go back to the other side, we start with our water. Watch how we can build words. I can take M, which is water. I can add a yud to it, and I get yud water. See, a yud, then water, gives me yud water. And in the Bible, we call yud water sea. Well, let's start all over again and take water. Here's my water, M, water. And let's add it to that yud water. Well, remember, when this letter's at the end of a sentence, it changes forms. It changes over here to this form that meant to repeat word or simply add an S. So we simply add an M, which is water, to this combination of yud water, which just means add an S. And I've created the word water with an S. And if you go to the right, I've put them together so you can see the two combined together. And underneath, you see I've got water and S. You put them together, and it's waters. And what does waters mean? It literally means water after water after water after water. It's like never-ending water. It's just water after water after water after water. It's just more water and more water. I mean, we understand that. And in English, we add an S. It just means waters. So now let's look at this second example. If we go back up, remember we had water, and then we had yud water, which is called sea. So let's go down here and let's build on this yud water. So if I take the yud water right here, yud water, and I add that ending to it, it becomes plural. So yud water becomes yud waters with an S, yud waters. But remember, yud water is also called sea. So look what happens when I put yud water or sea and I add the plural to it. It becomes yud waters or seas, sea with an S, seas. And it's just C after C after C after C. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing this. We'll get to it in a moment. And it's just to prepare you for what you're about to witness. You're about to witness, to me, I would call it a miracle. But hey, you call it whatever you want. Now, we practice building words. Let's do the opposite. Let's practice breaking a word down. So here, we have the first word we can break down. Here it is. You have no clue what Hebrew is. Doesn't matter. Here's the word in Hebrew. Here's the word in English. This word, every time you see it from now on, no one can fool you. It means water with an S, waters. How do we know that? We break it down and we get water, and there's our funky little ending that just means add an S. We have a picture of water that just means water. And this other picture means add an S. Simple enough. Let's try it with this word right here. As you can see, all I did was add one letter to that word. So I can break that down into 3 pieces. And it means over here, the waters. Now, when I break it down into the 3 pieces, it means the water with an S. So this picture means the, this picture means water, and this picture means S. Put the three pictures together and it means the water with an S, the waters. Okay, let's do another example. Here's a word. You don't know what it means. Doesn't matter. You know that it has that ending that says add an S. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that's yud water, or C with an S. There it is. C with an S. Let's break it down. We break it down. Here's our yud water, or C. And here's that funky ending, little S. C with an S is what? Seas. All right. Let's do one last one. Okay. This one last one. All right. So here I've added a letter to that one we just did. So remember, it was C's, but this one is not C's. I added a letter to it. And the letter, just one letter, added a word. The word is the. So C's became the C's. Now let's take that and break it down so you can see. It breaks down into three parts. The first letter is a the yud water is C, and the last yud water at the end, remember, it's an S. So it's the C with a S, or the C's. Now, if we were doing it in picture forms, we'd have a hay here, and it'd be a man praying, and then we'd have yud water and some yud water. And we know what yud water is. It's working water. It's water that's in action. It's moving. It's doing. It's telling us to do something with the water. Working water. So this would be a man praying, and then we'd have working water, working water. And we know what these pictures represent. It represents the seas. The seas. All right. Now, the Bible gives us two examples. And here they are. I'm putting the two examples up here for everyone in the entire world to see. And if I don't care who you are, Dr. Michael Brown, Nehemiah Gordon, Tovia Singer, Sam Shimon, Kent Hovind, Ken Ham, I don't care who you are, because I'm going to make this so simple that even a small child can understand. The Bible gives us two examples, and I'm going to start with example number 2. So if you'll look on the screen, our example gives us a word that we have no clue what that word is. I've wrote a question mark there. Now, underneath that question mark, I've went on and I've broke that word down for us. And everyone can agree when I break that word down, it makes perfect sense. I have a picture that starts off, it represents an S. Look, see the S right under it. I have another picture that represents water. See water right under. I have another picture that we don't really know what it represents. Well, obviously we do. I've already told you it's work. But let's say we don't know what it is. It's just a letter. So whether we said work or just call out the letter, like we don't know what this letter is. Well, it's pretty easy to figure it out because it's a yud. And just like I told you, it meant work. Well, we have an example in the Bible, and the Bible tells us what this word is. And it tells us this is literally mikvah, water with an S. Waters is plural. Mikvah, waters. It's simple enough. It is mikvah, waters. But we're told not to call this mikvah waters. We are told to call this by this new name right here. And this new name I've broken down for you. As you can see, the first picture is just an S. Bring the S down. All right. Now remember, we had mikvah water. Here's mikvah water. Now we know what mikvah water is. It's also yud water. It's also yud water. We come back down. We know this is yud water. We know this is mikvah water. God himself tells us this is mikvah waters. Okay. But he said, even after he tells us, God literally tells us, guess what? This is mikvah waters. Okay. I don't need a challenger because there's nothing to challenge. God himself tells us that this word is mikvah waters. I don't need anyone to tell me what this word is. God himself wrote in that Bible, or gave to Moses, and Moses wrote down, and I understand perfectly. It's mikvah waters. But he said, don't call it mikvah waters. Okay, I won't. I won't call it mikvah waters. He said, I want you to call it, and he combined the yud with the mem, and instead of it being mikvah waters, it becomes yud waters. And what is yud waters? We've already understood yud waters because it's the same as the ending. But remember, only when it ends a word is it working water or repeating water. That just simply means S. It's the same design, the same concept. It is working water. It's water after water after water. It's just water, folks. But this is a special kind of water. This is a working water, or a mikvah water, or a yud water. This is all the water in the world swirling together like the biggest storm you've ever seen in your life. And he calls the water of this world, well, we put the English word on there, seas. But that is not what he calls it, okay? He doesn't call it seas. He calls it by Hebrew name. And I've wrote the word again so you can see we're talking about the same word we started off with. Now, is it okay to call it seas? Yes, it's okay to call it seas. However, that is not what God calls it. God calls it by a different name. And he told us what to call it. And there it is. And I've broken down what he told us to call it. Now, before I explain to you what it is called, we want to go over another example. Because another example uses this word right here. And for everyone out there, this word is called heaven. That's what we're told. We're told this word is heaven. Well, let's do the same thing we did with this word over here that we are told is seas. That's what we're told it's seas. So let's do the same thing with what we're told is heaven. First, we say, let's start off, we don't have a clue what this is. Fine, let's break it down. I've broke it down. Here it is. I've given a definition of all the breakdown. We've already identified this first picture. It's water after water after water, and it means repetition. It means S. It means plural. It just means more than one or something like that. Second picture, it's water. So now we have water that's plural. It's just waters. Then we have another one. It's a letter. This letter, I didn't write down what we call it. I wrote down what it is, and it is a shin. There's a shin. The last letter we've already discussed before, and it's a the. So I just write the under it. And this is what this word is. This word is the shin water with an S, the shin waters. Just like we had the yud waters, we have the shin waters. It's literally the same pattern. It's just a shin instead of a yud. So we have one pattern, yud waters, then we have shin waters. The same concept. God tells us what the Yud waters are. They're mikvah waters. He tells us what the Shin waters are. They are rakia waters. That's literally what he tells us it is. It is literally the waters with a rakia separating the and water. You put the rakia where it's supposed to go, and it literally tells you it is the rakia waters. But he said, do not call it rakia water. Don't call it rakia water. You see how I connect with a plus sign, just like I did over here. Yud plus mem equals Yud mem, or Yud water. Here's Yud water. He said, don't call it mikvah water. He didn't say I couldn't call it Yud water, though. He said, don't call it mikvah water. Fine, I'll call it Yud water. Yud water works just fine. But they don't tell us it's Yud water. They tell us it's seas. How in the world did they get that? Well, it doesn't matter, because here's the word. And I said seas is okay because we understand seas as water, plural. And this is something to do with water, plural. But this is Yud water, plural. This is Yud waters. He said, don't call it mikvah water. That's two words, mikvah, water. But we can call it Yud water. So don't call it mikvah, fine. Call it Yud. Yud water. And this is just an S on the end, Yud waters. Now, before we get to the actual pronunciation, what should we call Yud waters? Let's look at our other example. Same concept. Add the shin to water and you get shin water. God tells us it's rakia water. But don't call it rakia water. Call it something else. Well, how about we call it shin water? That's what it is. It's shin water with an S. Shin waters. Now, if I take the shin, we know we need to call this by two names, just like rakia water or shin water. We need to call it something water. And the only thing we can call it besides shin water is whatever the shin represents. And a shin represents separating. So this is literally separating water with an S, or separating waters. Now, we are told that it's heaven, but it is not heaven. It is literally what we call outer space. Now, I'm going to have to go back and prove that it's outer space. But for now, I do not call it heaven, because that is an error. It is wrong. I'm okay with calling it shin water, or shin waters, or separating waters, even outer space. But I'm not going to call it heaven, because that is a lie. It is not heaven. It is some kind of water. It is shin waters, rakia waters. It is the space between waters. It is literally outer space. And outer space is separating two waters. It's separating this water that we call seas from another water which we call God. And I'll have to prove that, but we'll get to it. So this word that everyone's telling you is heaven, it's just outer space. And at this time, there's no sun, moon, and stars. It's absolutely dark. It's void. There's nothing in it whatsoever. And here is the final result. Because God doesn't tell us what to call it. He's just, he tells us what to call it, but we didn't hear his voice. All we have is this word telling us what to call it. And I've wrote the other word, seas, to give you an example, because we're going to make right here is where I want to make my point. Okay. Here's how I want to make my point. I've wrote down what these letters translate into sound, into English sound. So let's start with the C's over here. They tell us that this is C's. That's what we're told. Now, God told us what to call it, and right here's what he told us to call it. So I have a question for you. Okay. This is where I'm going to preach. Okay. Now, the reason why it's preaching is because I've done taught you. I don't care who you are. I don't care how dumb you are, how smart you are. I've already taught you. I've taught you right here on the screen, right here in front of the world. So if I ask you, what in the world is this? What would you say this was? Please do not say it's C's, because you'd be very, very far from what God told you to do. When he told you that this was mikvah waters, that is absolutely correct. But he said, don't call it mikvah waters. He said, this is what you call it right here. Question, what is that? Now, this is where we get into sound, and it is very important. The problem is, by definition, Hebrew is incomplete. We don't have the vowels. We simply don't. But if we write this and we break it down, just like I've been showing, we broke down, here it is, broke down before the world, translated into English, so that English viewers do not need to know Hebrew or anything else. This right here is what God told us to call it. Now, all I'm asking you is to read from right to left and tell me, do you see the same thing that I do? Because the world is telling you that this word that you're looking at on the screen right now is C's. There's no C's here. Now, I'm okay with using the word C's to help people get to what we need to call it. We need to call it what God told us to call it. So look at these two words right here. God told us to call it one, and we call it another. Do they look anything alike? No. This is what I was calling my chicken. This is my chicken. Now, this is your chicken. And our chickens don't look nothing alike. Now, you can say, well, Billy, that's how you translate it, say it in another language. Did God tell you to say it in another language? God told us how to say it, and I expect your chicken to look just like mine. This is how he told us to say it. Now, this is where I'm going to do a little preaching again to Dr. Michael Brown, Nehemiah Gordon, to Ovia Singer. I don't care who you are. You don't have the vowels, and you cannot trust any man that has ever lived, let alone a series of men transitioning one to the other. We can't trust anything. All we have, that's it. That's the best we have. Now, how would you pronounce that word? Well, all I can do is tell you how I would pronounce it. And in Hebrew, you will see that there's all different kind of funny spellings, different little fluctuations. For example, this Y becomes an I, and it looks like yamim, yamim. Some cases, the Y becomes an A, and it looks like yamam. So you got yamim and yamam. Different little nuances, little changes like that. For all my viewers, I don't care who you are, English, German, Japanese, pronounce this right here to the best of your ability and tell me what you get. Well, I know very common is this MY combination, and that looks like my. Would you say me, ma, moo? No, you'd probably say my, because that's what a MY is. It's my. Fine. What about a YM combination? Well, if the Y is silent, right? If it's silent, then you would just have M. It wouldn't be Y, it'd just be M. So the point is, we know that this word starts off with a Y sound, but we don't know if it's yay, yeah, yo, you, yai. We don't have a vowel. But we do know that this looks like my. It's as close as I could get. So if I was going to pronounce this, and I want to explain why I would pronounce it, I would say you mine, you mine, you mine. I would say you mine, you mine, you mine. And the reason why is because this gets an I sound when you say my. So it's like my am, my am, my am. It's literally my am. So if we just added a Y sound to my M, what would it sound like? It would just be y, my M, my M. Now, once I say my M, all of a sudden something special happens. And I realize that it does not matter what the vowels are. You know why? Because if tomorrow somebody comes up to me and says, Billy, I really loved your lesson on your moo yam, I'll understand perfectly. If somebody else comes up and says that, yeah, moo yom, that lesson was awesome, I'm going to say, I know exactly what you're talking about. They say ye me yam, I'm going to know. I don't care how they pronounce it. In other words, it's irrelevant how you pronounce it. That's like a heavenly tongue. It don't matter what you say. Everybody's going to understand. That is similar. It's not exact, but it's similar to speaking in tongues and interpretation. If you don't have the gift of interpretation and somebody says, hey, that lesson on Yam, you're not going to understand a word they said because you don't know what Yam is. I'm going to understand right away because I'm going to understand YM. YM. That's like Yamayim. Oh, you talking about my Yamayim lesson? Yeah, I'm going to understand perfectly. So there's a window. The window to pronunciation and sound is a big window. We got a E, O, U, I sound that can be in between each one of those letters. How many vowels there are? If you just said there's 5 vowels, then we have 5 times 5 times 5 combinations. We got 100 and something combinations. We got 100 different dialects you can say this word in. And guess what? It's irrelevant. But if you were trying to be honest, how would you pronounce this? Can you think of a better way to say it than Yamayim? Yamayim. Yamayim. Well, it sounds pretty good to me. I'm okay with it. Now, before you come along, Mr. Hebrew scholar, and tell me, oh, Billy, there's 1,000 ways to figure this out. I don't care. I don't care if you said yay, miyam, yay, muyam. I don't care. I understand perfectly. Yamayim. And if you want to say it some different way, go ahead. Say it every way you want to believe in some vowels, and go ahead. What's wrong with the way I say it? What's wrong with my breakdown? There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with calling it yud water. There's nothing wrong with calling it anything else, but if God tells you, just don't call it mikvah water. Well, why not? Why can't? Well, God said, okay, fine. What do we call it? God said, call it this. That means I'm going to try not to say yid water. I'm going to try not to say working water, but I'm going to understand yid water. I'm going to understand working water. I'm going to understand seas, but I don't call it seas. I call it Yemayim. Yemayim. Now let's look at our other example that everybody says is heaven. Now I'm sure that you can understand the concept that I just preached to you. So do I need to preach it again? Whoever you are out there, say this word and tell me, does it sound anything like heaven? No. Based on this understanding, does it have anything to do with heaven? No. This is literally the waters with a separation, and that separation is filled with a word, rakia. We know what it is because God told us. He said, just don't call it that. Call it something else. And he told us what to call it. Now we know what it is. It's shin waters. It's rakia waters. It is separating waters. We know it is outer space. We know that. But what do we call it? This is what God said call it. So you do whatever you want. I'm going to do what God told me to do. And he said, Billy, call it this right here. And there's no vowels in it. This is the best I can do. And I already have this MYM combination. I already call it MyM. MyM. So I add the SH to it and I got Shemayim, baby. And if somebody comes along and pronounces another way, I'm okay with it because there's no vowels and there's 125 different ways to say it, and I'm okay with every one. As long as when you say this word, Shemayim, or ever how you want to say it, you understand what it is. It is a shin in the waters. It is a rakia in the waters. It is a separation in the waters, a separation of the waters. It is outer space. As long as you know what it is, then I don't care how you say it. All I can do is preach to you and warn you. You might want to think about what you're doing because the Bible says God called it something. If God refused to call it by any other name but this name, then you might want to do the same thing. Now, does that mean you need to abandon English, Chinese, Japanese? For communicating purposes, no. You can use any language you want. Just like I said, I will use the word seas. Fine. If communicating purposes, seas. As long as the understanding is, that's Yemayim, baby. That's Shemayim, baby. Now, why do I say sh? Why don't I say shay or she or shy or show or shoe? Because it's just very common that if you didn't know how to pronounce this word and the first time you pronounce it and you don't know that it's missing vowels, you're probably going to go sh, and the reason why you go is because you don't know. So you just go um, uh. So you literally make that sound. So you go shh, mm, uh, and so it's just common. And it's not an or an ah, it's somewhere in between. It's like a confusing, you just like and so it's the normal sound that you make when you're sounding out a word and you don't know what the next part is. So you go sh what was that other part? Shemayim. Okay, got it. Thank you. It's Yemayim. Okay, so that's why I say Yemayim and Shemayim. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Now, if I had a recording of Moses recording God's word, and I knew for a fact that this was Shemayim, that's how I'm going to say it, Shemayim. But if you ain't God and you ain't Moses, I don't need your correction. What I do need is I need you to be okay with the way I say it. I'm okay with the way you say it as long as you don't say it heaven. Because if we can't agree that don't say heaven, well, I don't know if I can help you. I think it's impossible. So, my viewers, this is the last part right here. We pull this up and we read this verse. In the beginning created God, this word, and you say it, and they did a pretty good job of writing it in English. Ha-shamayim. Ha-shamayim. I don't care if you say it. Ha-samayim. So what? Sa versus sha. It's close enough. It's in the window. Why are we gonna? You're not. You're gonna make a big deal whether it's Hasamayim or Hashamayim or Hasamayim or Hashamayim, but you ain't even going to blink an eye when they say heaven. Are you kidding me? This is not heaven. This is Shamayim. Hashamayim. Okay? And how do we know that? We go to the second day. Okay? Go to the second day. And we do what God tells us to do. It says, God said, take this right here, this word, rakia, and put it in the midst right here. Put it in the midst of this word right here. And you can put it in 3 places. Where do you put it at? He said, let it divide between this part right here. So there it is. You put it, there's that part. You don't put it in that spot. You put it right there between them two so that it goes from water. And this word right here means to water. It goes from, the division goes from water to water. So we know that it's 2 waters. This H is a water and this other part is a water. But it's just simply the waters. And he's telling you, take just a big old space, move these words, move this M and hey and move it far apart because we finna stick something in there. And he said, but what we stick in there, right here it is. He's told us what it is. He said, stick a rakia in there. Stick a rakia in there and let it divide. Here's the rakia right here. Here's what it does. It divides. But he said, don't call it that. We go down here and it says, and called this rakia Shamayim. Right here it is. So if God called it this word right here, this is the best I can do for you. This is whether you say Samayim or Shamayim or Samayim or Shamayim, I don't care. As long as you don't say heaven, and then just think about it. Think about it. God told you what to do. Take that word, spread it apart, put something in there, and then don't call it rakia, call it this. So when we go all the way back up, here it is. This is Shemayim, Shemayim. Hey, here it is. Now we go back up, and all that happened was we added one little letter to it. Remember how we built the word? We took that word, added one little letter to it. We know what this word letter means. It means the. And we know what this last three mean. It means waters. This is the, don't call it Rakia. This is the Shin waters. This is the separated waters. That's what it is. But that's not what God called it. God called it Shemayim or Shemayim. And when you add this letter to it, it's just the Ha Shemayim. There it is. It's the Shemayim, the separated waters. That's all it is. And literally, it's outer space. So if you wanted to say, well, Billy, this is just a translation. This is okay. Well, heaven still ain't close. Outer space. Heaven and outer space are so far apart. They're literally the opposites. They're polar. It's like white and black. It's like yes and no. Heaven and outer space are polar opposites. This is unacceptable. And if you think about what I'm teaching you, if you're following God's instructions and you're doing what God tells you to do, then he's told you how to say it. So every tongue, I don't care, German, Japanese, there's no such thing as translating this word into another language. There's no such thing. If you believe in the God of this Bible, then he told you how to speak this word. Why would you speak another language? I'm okay. You can use a language to communicate with. You can use a language every day of your life, just like I'm doing using English. I don't care. Use English. I don't care what you use. But don't tell me God created this heaven. No. God created Shemayim, Hashemayim. And don't tell me, well, it's a pearly gate full of clouds, and no, it ain't. It's outer space, and it's void and full of darkness. Yeah, it has a sun, moon, and stars in it for now. Those are going to disappear very soon. Now, I have to go, but I will do the other lesson. We'll follow up. We're going to do one more because everybody can see it now. And I'll go into the next lesson and prove that it is outer space. This lesson is more about what it is, breaking the letters apart, breaking it down, using the Hebrew, using the pictures. You cannot figure this stuff out without the pictures. But I will tell you, when you figure it out, it has a very similar meaning. Like all the Hebrew is close. It's very close. Bereshit is close. Bara is close. Elohim is close. Et is close. Hashemayim is close. It's very close. But Hashemayim, that doesn't communicate to you the Shin waters. It doesn't communicate to you the separation of waters. It doesn't communicate to you the space between the waters. We got to be educated a little bit. So there's a little bit of teaching, and then we've got to correct this. If you think you knew Hebrew, then how in the world did you agree to go to this word heaven? If you know Hebrew, you're a fluent Hebrew speaker, then how in the world were you ever fooled that this is some pearly gate heaven? No, it ain't. No, it's not. I mean, it's as plain as day. It's outer space. I'm going to prove that in the next video. So, all right, folks, here you go. Here you have it. Live, on air, before the world. Here it is. I'm getting feedback. I've got feedback from 4 or 5 people. I would love feedback from 100 people, 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people. Let's take this message, spread it to the world. If you're Muslim, you've been lied to. If you're a Jew, you've been lied to. If you're Christian, you've been lied to. What should you be? You shouldn't be a Jew. You shouldn't be a Christian. You shouldn't be a Muslim. You shouldn't be what should you be? You know what you should be? You should be one and only one thing. What this Bible tells you that you should be. Does God tell you you should be a Muslim? No. Does he tell you you should be a Yehudi? No. Does he tell you you should be a Christian? No. What does he tell you? He tells you that you should be basically a son or daughter, a child of YeHoVaH, a child of God. We say son of God, daughter of God, child of God. It means you are a worshiper and an obeyer. You worship him and you obey him. You obey every single word that he speaks. That's it. If he says it, you do it. That's why most people can't understand the first couple of chapters in the Bible because they just refuse to do what he says do. Just take the rakia, stick it in the waters, call it by a different name, and boom, you know exactly what to do. Do it. Just do it. But I got news for you. For those who watch and don't do, you might as well not even watch. Get your Bible out, read it, let it instruct you, follow the instructions, do what he says do. Take the water, separate it, put the rakia in it, read it, but don't say rakia. It's the rakia water, but don't say that. Put a shin where the rakia is, and it's the shin water. It's the separated water. It makes perfect sense. Then we go on later in the next lesson, we're going to find out it's outer space. It's simply outer space. It's where the sun, moon, and stars. Actually, we can just do it right now and we can just end that argument right now. All we got to do is go down to day 4, 3, day 4, right here. And he tells us, let there be lights. Where? In the rakia. Now he's telling us just so we can make sure we got it right. He's putting lights in the firmament. He's putting the sun, moon, and stars there. And what is that place? Here it is. It's outer space. Here they again, trying to tell you it's heaven. Did God put the sun, moon, and stars in heaven? No, he put it in outer space. He put the sun, moon, and stars in a deep, dark, black void. And without the sun, moon, and stars, there's no life in it. It's void. There's nothing in there. It's an infinite darkness. It's the bottomless pit. It's a place you don't want to go. You don't want to be. It's right here before your face. Right there. He says, let them be for signs and seasons, for days and years. There's a reason he puts them in there. It's so that it can shine upon the earth. So if it's shining upon the earth, where is it? It's in outer space. It's an outer space shining on the earth. There you go. So, all right, I'm going to end this lesson right here because, I did a lot of work today to fix all this for everybody. Man, I really hope this goes over well. I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much. May YeHoVaH bless you and keep you in his name. I pray. YeHoVaH. Amen. Amen. Amen.